Okay, well, we'll get underway, folks. Thanks again for coming. It's terrific to see such a big turnout. There are a few empty seats over this side for those who are just arriving, so please take those. And I'd like to welcome our special guests this morning. First of all, Andre Els, first of all, we'll go in order. Those of you who don't know who he is, he called the meeting up in Goonellabah a couple of weeks ago and really started this community movement for change. And so that's why we have him here today, to hear how that's going. Welcome, Andre. And then someone who needs no introduction, Madam Mayor, Sharon, thanks for being here. And we're very pleased to have Detective Inspector Bill McKenna, who'll be able to share with us later a little bit of info about what's going on. So thank you all for coming. I became involved in this because as I walked around Ballina over the last few months, when I talked to people about what was on their minds, instead of talking about potholes and council things, the rubbish and the rates and all of that, like you normally do, people were concerned about crime. They're worrying about their homes being broken into, their cars being stolen, and things they've worked hard for all their lives being taken away from them. And let's face it, it's a real worry. And for many people, although they may not have been affected themselves, they knew someone who had, or they knew someone in their street or the street nearby. So I thought, well, we've got to do something about this. And then I heard about Andre and his meeting. So I went along to that. And it was a terrific meeting. It was constructive, it was informative, and it was considerate. And it was on a Sunday morning like this one is. So in calling today, I hope we can have that same really positive atmosphere and feedback. And please encourage everyone to keep that in mind. So the program is, we'll hear from Andre first. We'll then, I'll give a bit of an update on the reforms that were announced by the Premier this week, so that we're across that. We'll then hear from the Chief Inspector, Bill McKenna. Then we'll have a little chat around security, including security cameras, and we'll hear how that's working really effectively in Queensland and why it's so badly needed here. Then we'll hear from the Mayor, and then we'll have questions. So we'll hopefully get through the info part quickly because we really want to hear from you. So without any further ado, I'll invite Andre up. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rod. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, after a meeting at Goonellabah on the 3rd of March, we had a lot of response and ideas from the local community on how to keep ourselves safe in our own homes. I congratulate Rod Bruem, your councillor, to have the initiative to call this meeting of your community, and Rod is an avid believer that something needs to be done, so I ask you all to support him. I was not asked to become involved in this, but I also became a victim like yourselves, just by chance, and in an attempt to steal my car in my driveway only a month ago. After making inquiries from my neighbours, I found that also they'd been violated, and one of them had actually had their car stolen from their driveway, which opened up a can of worms for me. But I decided that I was going to at least do something about it. Please remember, we did not apply for this job, and it's fairly thankless, and we dedicate our own time. So I do ask you all to keep this meeting positive and respectful. We also have to deal with negative people who hang off every word we say and are offended by what we say sometimes, and we have to then mediate with those people for a positive result. After meeting with the police about 3 weeks ago in Lismore, they mentioned that 70% of the break-ins were preventable by people just not locking their cars and their homes and not having valuable items in their cars. Could I have a show of hands of the people who have either been broken into or had their cars stolen from January this year? Okay, I'll give you a bit of an idea, but I thought there probably would have been a lot more, but there'd be a lot more people who are at the meeting who have been violated. What these criminals are doing is breaking into your home whilst you are in there, even in the daytime and or asleep. And it seems that the main thing they're looking for is your wallet, your handbag, and then stealing your car keys. Some of the criminals are children as young as 10 years old, and many are controlled by older thugs. So we're no longer safe in our own homes. The current law does not protect us, and if the offender is under 18 years of age, it's very difficult for the police to prosecute them with any real consequences. And these youths have no compassion, no respect or no empathy, and they're not scared of us or the police. So we are on our own out there, and the laws that the police have to deal with is just not viable. The magistrates are dealing with us under the Youth Offences Act of 1997, and these current laws are certainly not in the interest or expectations of us, the public. I saw last night on television, Channel 9 is running something on Monday night on a current affair at 7 p.m. regarding the stress that people are under with what is currently happening, which I think will be an interesting program and give you some idea what people are having to deal with in their own homes. They're really scared. When arrested, some of these youths are actually throwing their tantrums in court with no consequences. Once they have been apprehended by the police, many of them have been taken back home to their parents, some of whom have absolutely no control of their children, and then are out within an hour doing exactly the same crime. I had a woman call me in tears that she had a boy 15 and a daughter 12 years of age who were constantly out doing breaking enters and stealing cars, and she said she was not able to control it. Another woman called me in the same situation and said she was actually called the police to her children, and then they came home and they bashed her. What do you do under these circumstances? I believe that we need to stand together as a community to have the current laws amended and to have these laws changed, and as there needs to be some consequences to get these youths off the street. We get together as a community and lobby the government to amend the laws so that if these youths are apprehended, they must have consequences. My suggestion is that they are kept in custody overnight and until the next morning, getting them off the streets so that they can go straight out, and so they can't go straight out and reoffend. If it's daytime again, let's try and apprehend them for a period of at least 8 hours so that there are some consequences, and if they are locked up. Fining them is useless because most of them have nothing anyway, and at the end of the day, nothing from nothing means nothing. Okay, now regarding the police, over the past few weeks, people have come to me blaming the police for what is going on, and I've responded by this. Imagine if someone came into your home, bashed you, and raped your wife. Who would you call? Your best mate, the butcher, the baker, or the police? The police are the last port of call for us, and it's like any other business at the moment. They are understaffed, like most businesses, and in the community, and like any other business, they have good cops and not so good cops. Just think through your working life. You may have some good people that you've worked with, but you also may have had others who are not so good. We're all different, and our values are sometimes very different. The fact is, the police see and have to deal with the other side of life that we don't see. But every job that they do is sometimes very different, and they also have to make a decision at the time which may be the right way to handle it under the protocols that they have to work under, but also may be the right to suit us. They may not suit us all. They are human beings like the rest of us and don't always get it right. But if we're not there, if they weren't there, what would you do? When you call the police, when you're being broken into, you expect them to be there within 5 minutes to help and protect you. Again, there may be 5 other of these exact same instances happening right at that moment, so it may not be possible for them to be there under our expectations. I also recommend that we lobby the government minister, Yasmin Catley, so that we get more police to the Ballina area, because they're way understaffed, and it would be great if we had a police liaison officer just to deal with break-ins and car theft, which would be someone to go to when we have incidents like the incidents we are currently having. The Minsk government have just allocated $26 million to this current problem, and we are having, and I understand that 50% of this money has been allocated to Moree. I feel that some of that money needs to be shared to us also, as we have the same problems as Moree. It's not just our community suffering this plague at the moment, because I've had calls from community in Byron Bay, Lennox Head, right down as far as Evans Head, and out the casino, wanting me to do the same for their communities, which is an impossible task for me as I'm only one man. But the idea I have is to have a representative in each of these locations to represent each area, collate all the information, to perhaps come with community ideas and try to get the results together to lobby the government to try and have some legislation passed regarding our various ideas. This way, as a community, we can all work together for the same result. What do we do in the meantime? Firstly, may I recommend you all load down the WeWatch app, which Marc will be speaking to you about a little bit later, and more people that load it down, the better it'll work for you. Compensation. It seems that we have been left behind with compensation, because I spoke to someone from Victim Services during the week, and I was told that unless you have been confronted by an offender and or been physically or mentally abused, that you have no right to compensation. I then said, well, if you're asleep in your bed and one of these thugs comes into your home, steals all your money and your goods, steals your car keys, steals your car, are you saying that they are not entitled to any compensation? She said, that's correct. I decided to have a look at the legislation, which read the meaning of a victim under the Young Offenders Act 1997. For the purpose of this act, victim means a person who suffers harm as a direct result of an act committed or apparently committed by a child in the course of a criminal offence. And just remember, a child is 10 to 18 years of age. Okay, number 2, a person suffers harm if, as a result of this act, A, the person suffers physical harm or suffers mental illness, nervous shock, or other psychological harm, in brackets, including fear, humiliation, shame, or stress. Okay, now this next section I found really interesting. It's B of the section, which I don't think they've even looked at. This is a victim. The person's property is deliberately taken, destroyed, or damaged, or the person suffers financial loss, which we've all suffered if we have a break-in. It seems that they have totally overlooked Section B of this legislation. We should be entitled to at least $1,500, and that's where it normally starts, if we have been violated and our goods stolen. I've just installed CCTV at my home, which is not very expensive. As soon as someone now walks onto my property, I'm warned by a dog barking on my phone. I can see clear vision of that person entering my property and bring the image right up to his face, at the same time recording it, which means I can give it to the police via the camera. I can then also speak to him without answering my door, and it also has a siren to alert my neighbours full stop. There is also a light in the camera, which has been such a great investment because I can see by shopping, I can see if I go shopping or anywhere I am in Australia, this will alert me straight away. You can then contact your neighbours. If you're not in a position to be able to afford these cameras, let's look at a way to be able to help you. Levi Lachlan, is Levi here today?
No, he's not.
No, he's not here, okay. From Region Security, he came to our last meeting, but he gave a talk and he was great. I was lucky enough to receive a phone call on Thursday from Damien Loone, who lives here in Ballina and has had over 30 years experience as a detective here in New South Wales. He was a New South Wales police force. He retired about 2.5 years ago. Just put up your hand, please, Damien. Damien has offered to do the same as what I'm doing for the community here in Ballina. Let's put his hand up. We just need about another 6 of him. One from Ballina, from Byron Bay, out the casino and down as far as Evans Head. Damien will also be speaking to you this morning. That's about all I've got to say. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Andre Els. He's been doing a lot of work, hasn't he? Yeah. You can tell. And wow, what about that show of hands in terms of people affected? Did not expect that. Although you expected more. There you go. So I don't know if Andre mentioned it, but he's a former policeman himself. And we have him and Damien here. I expect 1 or 2 others. Well, I know we have 1 or 2 others as well. So it's great to have their input. Because obviously now they're no longer in the force, they're freer to be able to, I suppose, participate in the policy side of things, which is terrific. I also wanted to acknowledge several of my fellow councillors who are here today. If you would maybe stand up. Eva Ramsey. Kiri and our Deputy Mayor Ian Johnston. And Simon Chait, Councillor Chait's here as well. Thanks, Simon. It's great to have you here. As I think I mentioned earlier, our council does regular community surveys every few years. The last one was published last year, so the data was probably from 2022. And concerns around crime and safety is in the top 10 of concerns of people in Ballina Shire. So I think it's very appropriate as your council that we listen to you about perhaps what we can do to try and alleviate some of those concerns. That's our job. All right. Andre touched on the Premier's announcement this week and mentioned about half the money is going to Moree. So I would just like to mention those reforms, which will still have to pass through state parliament. So my hope is that if we have some ideas about how it could be better, like the one Andre just suggested, let's have some money in our region, we can take that feedback to the Premier, perhaps the Mayor can, on behalf of the Council and the people here. We'll find a way to do it, because I'm sure the state government will be interested in feedback and people from all sides in Parliament will be having a say on this. So the major reforms that were announced this week include amending the Bail Act so as to strengthen it, and this will mean that the Premier, according to the Premier, that a bail authority such as police, magistrates and judges will need to have a high degree of confidence that a young person will not commit a further serious indictable offence while on bail in order to give them bail. So that's a change. Secondly, there's a new offence called posting and boasting. This is to try and reduce the crimes where young people are out there committing offences and then sharing it on social media. And you might have seen that shocking one from Kiri a few weeks ago where there were police vehicles spray painted outside the police station. A real worry. Then a lot of the Moree money is going into a new diversion scheme. What we heard at the Goonellabah meeting from a young Indigenous mum who was there that the current way of when young people are put in remand or in some sort of detention, that she basically described it as a university of crime. And it's actually making things worse. When they come out, they're more hardened criminals. So one of the promising aspects of the Premier's package is trying something a little different with Indigenous young people in Moree. Again, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about that as these go through state parliament. All right, so welcome, obviously, when we get to the question time and the statement time, your thoughts around all of this. At this point, I'd like to welcome Chief Inspector Bill McKenna, and thank you very much for coming today.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the invite today. Everyone hear me now? So I thought I'd start today by just reading a few things and providing an example of some things that have occurred in the last 24, 48 hours. Hope it's not too long-winded, but I'll just give an oversight of what's happened in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks, etc. So about 10:30 last night, a Holden Commodore Club Sports sedan was stolen from an aggravated break and enter at Goonellabah. Hear me now? Okay, so about 10:30 last night, a Holden Club Sports sedan was stolen from an aggravated break and enter at Goonellabah. 11:30 p.m, a highway patrol vehicle sighted the stolen Commodore travelling south on the coast road of Lennox Head. The highway patrol vehicle engaged with that vehicle in Fox Street, Ballina. The pursuit was terminated due to safety reasons. The stolen vehicle was then located a short time later where it collided with a fence in Treelands, Present, Ballina. 4 young persons were seen running from that vehicle. We believe we know the identity of 2 of the young persons involved. Both kids have extensive dealings with police and are currently on court-imposed bail. The stolen vehicle has been seized for forensic examination, and I'll come back to that in a second. On Friday morning, 2 13-year-olds who had been actively seeking and a 39-year-old woman broke into a house at Goonellabah. Police were advised and immediately attended. After a short foot pursuit, the adult woman was arrested. Extensive search failed to locate the 2 youths involved, both of whom are well known to police and are on court-imposed bail for aggravated break-enter and steal motor vehicle offences. So you can start to see a bit of a theme. Last week, police arrested a wanted young person in Corrigai for breaching his bail and committing serious offences. Police bail refused him and transported him to Grub.
Okay, so last week, police arrested a wanted young person at Corrigai for breaching his bail and committing serious offences. Police bail refused him and transported him to Grafton. The young person was given court-imposed curfew bail with less restrictions than it was previously on, and I'm advised he openly told police, "I won't be home tonight, I'm going to Grafton." He breached his bail that night and he's currently wanted. On Thursday, police located the stolen Ford Focus at the BP service station at Ballina. They attempted to stop the vehicle. That vehicle was pursued to Iluka. In a dead-end street, that vehicle reverse-rammed the highway patrol and dog squad vehicle, injuring both officers. Those 2 persons were arrested. One was a 22-year-old male, one was a 16-year-old male. Unfortunately for the driver, he was introduced to the police dog that night. Over the last 6 months, we've experienced a spike in aggravated break and enter offences, still motor vehicle offences across the PD. The majority of these offences appear to be committed by young people who are very well known to police. What our PD is experiencing at present is similar, if not identical, to other areas across the region, state and country, with young people breaking into houses at night, stealing motor vehicles and posting footage on social media. Amongst the young persons, there appears to be a social contagion to commit these offences. The concerning aspect of this is that these young persons are picking on vulnerable targets at times, particularly the elderly, who are concerned that through their actions, an elderly person may be assaulted, have a slip, a fall or a heart attack when confronting someone in their houses. Conversely, the young persons may end up seriously injuring or killing themselves or someone else in a stolen motor vehicle. The other worrying aspect is that last week I arrested a 16-year-old boy at Cumberland who had never been in trouble before. That night he went out with another male, broke into a house at East Ballina, stole a car, drove to Byron Bay, committed 2 aggravated break, enter and steal offences, drove to Cumberland. There, they decided to steal another car and break into another house. They were disturbed, the police were called, and he was arrested after an extensive search. The young person had never come under notice before. He was going to school, came from a good family, he was affected by alcohol, and on the night he had utter contempt and disdain for his victims and for the police. The offences are occurring across regional Australia, and they've also impacted our communities. In Ballina over the last 6 months, we have had nearly 100% increase in break-in and steal offences from the same rate as last year. February was our busiest month with 33 break-in and steal incidents occurring, and approximately 40% of those occurred on premises that were unlocked. So there's something there for us to take on board. 15 break-in incidents resulted in motor vehicles being stolen. To date, we're up to about 46 stolen motor vehicles. That may change with some fluctuation in terms of the stats, but that's what we're up to at the moment. In response to the increase in offences across our region, we've Operation Mongoose North running at present. And this is the area that I really wanted to highlight to you guys, what we are doing, what your local police are doing. This operation has seen additional resources such as our Operation Support Group staff, Highway Patrol, Dog Unit, Air Wing, Extra General Duties Police being deployed at night across our PD. This has resulted in a number of persons being arrested and a number of stolen vehicles being recovered. The focus of this operation is to provide a HVP response to our target areas. We're looking at things like your break-in and steals, your steal motor vehicles, your steal from motor vehicles, bail compliance checks, persons and vehicle searches, and move on. So if we see someone walking around in the early hours of the morning, we will go and talk, we will engage with them, and if we have enough power, we'll exercise our powers whilst talking to them. Through mapping of offences, the location of stolen and recovered motor vehicles, we have identified our hotspot and our hotspot areas and general corridors that offenders are using. We've also identified links between our communities and other areas where offenders are coming from and returning to. The other day we had 2 vehicles stolen from Lismore and recovered in Burleigh Heads. We then saw that 2 vehicles were stolen from Burleigh Heads. One was a Ram and one was an Audi, with the Ram recovered at Tweed Heads and the Audi still outstanding. We have identified various patterns and persons responsible. This PD, in conjunction with our Youth Command, liaison officers run a number of youth programs. We're in the schools talking to children, we're in the community liaising with families and groups, we're organising social events for communities, we're doing a lot outside of our core crime responsibilities to try and address youth behaviour. As police, we operate within the law and are governed by the Young Offenders Act when dealing with children. We rely on evidence to take action, not rumour, innuendo or anecdotal information. We need evidence to take action. What I would implore today is that people look at their home security arrangements as a start. Ensure that your house and car is locked and secured. Andre's touched on if you've got valuables in an easy sight of your vehicle, that's a concern. CCTV, whilst it may not stop offences, does provide valuable evidence in terms of identification, description and clothing worn by the offenders. What we don't want to see is a vigilante response by community members. Contact police and let us deal with it. Within this sector of highly motivated and experienced police that are actively searching for offenders each day and night. We take crime personally and are invested in our communities. We are rallying politicians for changes in law, and with your support, change will occur. The Premier has announced changes to the Bail Act. We have not seen those changes yet because they haven't been enacted. And as Paul mentioned, those changes relate to being highly confident that a young person will not commit further offences whilst on bail. But I also believe there's an age limitation on that, Paul, which may be 14 years and upwards. That might be an area that we need to look at too, please. In relation to that stolen club sport that crashed in Treelands Crescent this morning, when I walked into the office at 6 a.m, I was advised another aggravated break and enter had occurred on Moon Street, just outside Treelands. and a Toyota Hilux was stolen. So they've gone from that stolen vehicle, run away from police, come back a couple of hours later, broken into a house and stolen another vehicle. Police are actively out there now searching for that vehicle. What I will say is, yes, we have seen a spike in these offences. We're actively out there every single shift. I've got police changing their shifts, coming on, we're moving resources up into this area, including the air wing dog unit, as I mentioned. We've had some good success to date. The issue is that we are targeting the right people, we are arresting the right people, we are putting them before the courts, and then they're given bail. And so a lot of the people that we're dealing with are repeat offenders. They're either repeat adult offenders or repeat young offenders. We're conscious of that. We don't make the law as police, we uphold the law. So what we do is we try and rally behind the scenes of politicians to look at the holes in the law to make it a much safer community for all of us to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inspector Bill McKenna, for that. That was very interesting. And I would like to mention that the Chief Inspector was issued, as I recall, with the Australian Police Medal in the, which honours was it? Last year? Australia Day honours. Was it this year? The last one. So, I mean, that recognised his long commitment to the service. To acknowledge that, I think, as a community. Okay, next, we're going to hear from the Mayor in a moment, but I wanted just to invite another one of the former police who are here with us today, a chap who you may know of. His name's Beddoes. He works in security, and he is behind the Ballina Community Crime Facebook page. So he's sharing a lot of the information that is being shared at the moment. And he's also involved in his work in security systems around the state of Queensland, which are helping police in that state track down offenders. Rick, did you want to just come and give us a bit of an overview of that before we hear from the Mayor, who can tell us what's happening with the system that was being proposed for here in Ballina?
Please forgive me, I actually left my glasses at home, so just, if you could be kind of bear with me, I'll try and read behind this. Much better. Look, most of you folks, actually no it's not. Look, most folks in town remember me. I had a security business here for years, from 2008 to 2020. Meridian Protection Group. We did a number of patrols at night and dog work throughout the town, throughout the region.
Closer, Rick. Bit closer.
Sorry, can you hear me up back there okay? I've had to leave the area for medical reasons with my little boy. We've moved to Queensland. I now look after, I'm a business manager in Queensland, and I look after security operations at two of the largest hospitals in Queensland, a university, a power plant, two of the largest councils in Queensland, and also the largest mining operations in Queensland. I cover an area right from the border as far north as Weipa. Unfortunately, what we see in Ballina, as the Chief Inspector has said, is not isolated to this town, sadly. The days of when we were children, all growing up, of leaving your bikes outside somebody's house and being home by the time the street lights come on, those days unfortunately gone. I cannot implore with people enough to please lock your doors, lock your vehicles and secure your belongings. Nearly every person I've spoken to that reaches out to me, and I ask them that very first question, were your items locked? And they sadly say no. Those days, once again, are sadly long gone. You must lock up your items. Another common mistake people make is leaving their car keys hanging somewhere in the house in a nice place. As soon as somebody breaks into your home, they're looking for them. Hiding them in your kitchen cupboards, in your drawers in the kitchen with your cutlery, that doesn't work either. There are a number of ways out there, which I have a very highly respected locksmith over there, I'll talk to you later on, in regards to how you can hide your keys. Yes, I am one of the admin team on Ballina crime reports, and I do receive a lot of messages in regards to victims, what they've been through, information. With the 2 councils I'm involved in Queensland, I have seen enormous inroads into crime with what they've implemented in their regions. Due to what I do, I can't disclose those councils' names, but I will disclose some details. And they're called the Safety Camera Network. In those areas, across the entire council region, they have almost, some of the councils, over 1,000 CCTV cameras. They are fed back to a monitoring room where there are control room operators, or what we call a CRO for short, and they are monitored. Those CCTVs also have what's called licence plate recognition, or LPR for short. Queensland Police send through, and those councils work in conjunction with Queensland Police and the Department of Main Roads in Queensland. So they use the traffic camera systems out on the M1 as well. Licence plate recognition is not something new, but it is great technology. The QPS send a file through to the control room, the CRO uploads it. The minute that registration comes up in that area and is spotted by the CCTV, it alerts the CRO. The CRO contacts QPS, and QPS will then dispatch that vehicle. We are now implementing facial recognition as well. So when those juveniles on bail, or an adult who has committed a crime, and as long as police have a photo, those photos are uploaded into the system. When those people come into the camera system, or the camera network system, and the facial recognition picks them up, once again, it sends an alert, and that information is relayed straight to Queensland Police. The results are staggering, and it is making significant inroads. One of the other councils that has a very similar geographical area to Ballina Shire Council, and please remember Ballina Shire Council has a huge geographical area. You're talking about from 1 minute of Skinner from Lennox Head, right down as far as Wardell, I think it's even a little bit further from memory, as well as Wallingbar. So that is a massive area to look after. So they, in that area, have what's called a Community Response Vehicle, or CRV for short. Community Response Vehicle has 2 officers in that, and they are dispatched whenever something is notified, something flags up on the system. The camera system is across sporting fields, places of public interest, things like that. That has worked extremely well with police and has been able to assist them immensely in cracking down on crime, and it's particularly getting hold of juveniles not long after the crime has been committed. So one thing I do want to say to people is that I do find very disappointing and disheartening is the amount of messages that I receive via Ballina crime reports of people taking what I call pot shots at local police. I can genuinely hand on heart say some of the officers in this region that I've had the privilege of being able to liaise with and work with over the years are speak to the best officers I've ever seen in the state. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've only ever come across 2 officers that I genuinely made legitimate complaints about, and those 2 officers are no longer in force. There are some exemplary and very talented officers, and I've not seen one officer here who doesn't care about their job. I cannot implore with you enough, if you are the victim of a crime, please report it. Police work on statistics, and they need those statistics to have more officers in the region. One former officer who I've always held in very high regards, who I believe you probably mostly know, is former Incremental Sergeant David Longfield. Now, David sends his apologies today. He's actually on holidays in Germany. David was in charge of the police union in the area, and he did try very diligently for a number of years to have extra officers sent to this region. Unfortunately, it didn't work. But police do, I believe, work on statistics, and that's what they need to get more officers. I do hear a lot of, I can't be bothered reporting, police don't do anything. They can't do anything if you don't report it, because that's how they work. They're a business, and for them to seek more funding from the government and have more officers allocated to the region, they need those statistics as evidence. I'm going to ask the locksmith to come up here now, in case you've got any questions in regards to locksmiths and things like that for your house. Come on up, Blake. Blake owns Byron Bay Locksmiths. I've worked alongside Blake for that long.
Hey, how are you? For anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Blake.
I do own a locksmith in the area. We do travel down here, and I do a lot of car keys. There's people in the room that I've been to where I've had to go and make keys to their cars over at casino and where they're all getting dumped. Unfortunately, I'm the person that comes to your house after they've been broken into. I do see a lot, and I really want to know, and I haven't actually come across very many places that actually have been broken into where they've smashed a door in or things like that. I don't think people need to be real worried about break-ins. It's more about locking your doors. Plain and simple, lock your doors, hide your keys. Safes to put your keys in of a night time, very good idea, very easy to put in. Digital code pad, just a little safe from Bunnings is all you need. Just to hide it away from the kitchen bench is all you need. Just to keep it from them people. If they get into your house, they're not going to find anything, they're going to leave straight away. Pretty plain and simple is my motto, and just lock everything up.
Just to give you a little bit of a sample, when somebody's a domestic violence crime, for example, now they have to, they say, I've got mental health issues, the perpetrator. They say, well, okay, now that pulls a trigger to say we've got to find out if they're mad or bad. So then the police, the arresting police, have to take them then to Lismore Base Hospital. Sometimes sit there all day waiting for a psychologist to come along and interview them, when in fact they could be being interviewed back at the police station in a secure place, not exposing anybody else to this person at Lismore Base Hospital, and not taking, importantly, the boots off the ground that we so badly need. I mean, these are the sorts of things. This is why a total review is needed. On the CCTV cameras, that's something we've just got to have. We've got to have it in all our CBD areas. And we've been working on that now for some time. I'm expecting a report to council where councillors will need to make a decision. And I know at the last election, state government election, Tamara Smith, our local MP here, said she would fund that. So I'm really looking forward to that. And in fact, Bill said he was having a meeting with Tamara shortly about that, because that was an election commitment, and I still think we need to pursue that because it will come down to funding. We have the lowest rates in the region, and we need to keep our rates low as well, because our community seriously can't afford to pay more than they already are. That's what I believe. You have to always look at the lowest denominator, and somebody might live in a very expensive home, but can they afford to pay any more than $70 a week for their land rates? No, if they're on a pension. So we have to look at that. We have to be circumspect with our spending. We need the cameras. We'll need to be making some hard decisions. We need to be lobbying government very hard on helping to fund these cameras, because they make a difference. That's what helps our police do their work, and we need to be helping them as much as we possibly can. So I guess opportunistic crime, that's what I hear. We've been hearing about that today. Thank you, Rick. And Locksmith over here, thank you. We know that happens. I had a motorbike, yes, I do have a motorbike licence, and it was left in the carport by Consort Bruce, Mayor Consort Bruce, and took the keys but didn't lock the steering, so somebody just wheeled it away. I never saw it again, and it wasn't insured. Also, not recently, but I had a break-in, and it was a break-in with a samurai sword, and that was pretty scary stuff. So I think there's a lot of us that have either had something happen to us at some point or another, sometime or another, or we know somebody that's been impacted. Because when you are, it never leaves you the same again. And I think that is the scariest thing of all. My grandmother's brother was murdered with a break and enter. We've had a lot in our family. My auntie had a home invasion, and I know how that's impacted her. So there's a lot of things, I guess, that we can start doing. I have CCTV cameras around my home, and it does give some comfort, but there needs to be more done, and we just have to keep doing more and get these alarming statistics down. We don't need to be overrepresented like we are. I guess that's about all I've got to say, Councillor Bruem, but thanks everybody for turning up on a Sunday morning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, we are at that time when we want to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, we welcome it. The meeting today is being recorded, so it's important that we hear what you have to say, and we'll be going through that recording in terms of the feedback that we'll be collating.
CCTV cameras. Regarding that, the government will quite gladly pay thousands of dollars to stick a few tiles on the roof that will collect electricity. Why can't the government also subsidise CCTV cameras? And the second point I would like to make is that the police are doing a damn good job, and in doing that job they are losing policemen and women. I have 2 son-in-laws, ex-policemen, and a grandson who is a policeman. They put together the briefs, they send them to the magistrate. The offender appears in a very nice suit and tie, with a lovely clean collar, brushed hair, brushed teeth, not with the same brush I hope, but they appear. Why can they not be asked or made to appear in court as they were dressed when they were charged? I'm sure that might make a difference, but we should look at the sentencing rather than the police for blaming on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Was that a comment or a statement? Did anyone wish to respond to that?
So just on a couple of points then, all our police now are general duties police and highway patrol police, and we're in body-worn video. So everything they're doing now, every interaction that we have, we are recording, and that's been a godsend for us in terms of really showing the demeanour, the temperament, the behaviour of that person on the time that they're arrested. So that's a bonus for it. It also stops innocuous complaints or false complaints against your police. We're conscious of the fact that we're recording all the time. You know, police are very professional. They hear the policies, but that's a real bonus to us. In terms of the CCTV, Tamara Smith has given an undertaking to fund that. There's also some applications to government to assist with that funding, but that's something that I'll explore tomorrow.
John Kay. One question, if we all left our porch lights on for the night time, that goes out onto the street, would that help in people walking around? And the other thing, have we got our local magistrates here or representing so that we can hear their side of that problem?
Okay, I think the first question was around, is it worth leaving lights on? I think what was discussed at the Goonellabah meeting was the sensor lights are fantastic to do, pretty simple. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Look, yeah, that's really important that if you don't have to leave your lights on all night. If you have sensor lights on, that's great, because as soon as they come onto your property, those lights will go on and it will deter them from coming to your house. They'll go to the next house rather than that's why I'm saying everybody gets sensor lights and gets CCTV, because that's actually what's happening here. But as far as I was talking to you about the app goes, that app wakes you up and all of a sudden you know there's something happening in your street. And if you then turn your lights on, you're helping to protect the other people in your street, because these folks, they'll be hiding under trees or anywhere that's dark. If we can light up that street, if we've all got that app and we all light up that street, they're not going to have too many places to hide.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, just before you go, read the magistrates. Obviously, serving magistrates would not be able to be here today. Would have been nice to perhaps have a retired one to give their viewpoint, but that's the way it is. Unless there's one here to say something. Next question, sir.
Yes, I have the mic. Greg's my name. Inspector McKenna mentioned occasional visits to schools to talk about issues that affected youth crime. And I'd like him to perhaps comment a bit further on what sort of things are discussed. And my other comment would be, I remember in the early days, there used to be this is more of a remedy rather than talking about security, the Youth Police Boys Club seemed to be quite well presented around Australia. I don't know how many of those exist anymore, and I'm just hoping that there might be some thought to establishing something like that in Ballina to get the kids off the streets, get them involved in sorts of other activities, boxing or whatever. So that's my question to Inspector McKenna.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I couldn't agree with you more. In terms of our interaction with schools, we've got to say it's a layered approach. It's a multifaceted issue that we're dealing with. You know, you've got young kids that are generally from low socioeconomic areas. They're in dysfunctional households, poor education. There's generally drug and alcohol dependencies. You've got to start looking at that aspect as well. No role models, all that type of stuff. So it's multi-layered. It's just not simple as getting more police out there and all that type of stuff. It would help if your magistrates, in my opinion, looked at the impact on the victims rather than the impact on the offender. In terms of the school, our youth command they're the lead agencies in relation to that. They're in the high school here. They're going around the schools. From our perspective, from our command's perspective, we do a lot of stuff. We go around, we identify our kids at risks, we talk to them, we talk to their parents, we go and collect them, we take them up to the PCYC at Lismore, we give them breakfast, we run programs, you know, whether it's a boxing program or whatever else, we run all these different programs. In some places out of Cadwallader, years ago, we used to run a car driver program so they can get their licence. Because you've got to imagine, in some of these areas, no one has a licence. So then how does a young person get his 120 hours up to get his licence? So then if they don't have a licence, how do they then get out of that area? How do they seek employment? You know, so it's a multi-agency response. The frustrating thing that I see is that New South Wales Police, whose core job is crime, is taking over a whole myriad of other areas that's taking us away from our core responsibility. We do it really well. You know, we go into meetings. We don't take a soft, fluff approach in relation to what we're doing. You give us a problem, we solve the problem. If you want something fixed, come to New South Wales Police. I think you saw that during COVID. You know, we took over a major role during COVID because other agencies were afraid to make decisions. So we took over a lead. So in relation to that, you know, we're doing so much in other spaces. The frustrating thing that I see, and I'm going off a tangent here at the moment because I'm passionate about it, is in school holidays, Christmas holidays, no one else works. Everything comes back to police. Where do you see your spike in crimes? School holidays, public holidays, after hours. Where's education, where's health, where's family and community services, where's all these other agencies who are really the experts in dealing with psychological problems, health issues and all that type of stuff. A lot of it comes back down to your police. Now my police here are fantastic, they're supportive, they're sympathetic, they're empathetic. You know, we go above and beyond what we would normally do. You know, and I've worked all over the state, worked in the busiest areas, worked down Mount Druitt, back down Cadwallader, Fairfield, all those areas, it's crime squads, whatever else, frontline. And you come up here and what I see the police deal with. And what we're talking about today is aggravated breaking down of stolen cars, the impact it has on you guys. And it's not so much the volume, it's the impact. You know, one offence in one street may impact that whole street. So, you know, I'm not concerned about the volume. Yes, we want to stop it, but I am concerned about the impact. You know, Corrico is a small town that's recovering from the floods. You know, that town's barely up on its feet, and yet it's having a spike in offences down there. Those people have just been battered. Now, if you looked at putting CCTV in there, we put one application through a while ago, it really didn't hit the mark because of the volume of offences. But as far as impact goes, that impacts everybody. You know, so we've got to get away from the stats side of thing and look at the impact and how you can solve it. In terms of the PCYC, when I first moved up here, there used to be a Ballina RSL youth boxing club. Used to take my son there. It's fantastic. That's folded now. PCYC is like most other places in our organisation at the moment. There is no funding for new PCYCs, so they're trying to branch out. In terms of some of the other stuff that we're doing, we've spoken about some of the programs, and our crime manager would really give you a detailed list of all the programs that we've got running. We try and run discos at night time on certain occasions. You know, we tried one here at the Seacoast High School. Again, there's meant to be a whole agency response. Police turn up and one student attended. You know, so there's some issues there. It has to be driven, but it has to be driven at a number of levels. We are out there in the community identifying the young ones that need our assistance, and if we get suggestions, we go and follow up with them. We deploy our liaison officers, our youth police, physically go around, pick them up, put them in a car, get them breakfast, take them up there, drop them back home. So we're doing a lot in that space, but you know, I'd love to see a PCYC down here. There's a definite need for it. Definite need for it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor's just pointed out to me there is a state government fund. There was a state government fund for CCT cameras, so that's gone. Did you want to talk? While we wait for our next question. Got one ready?
Thanks, Councillor Bruem. Yes, there was a fund for business and community that was funded from 2019 till June 2023. They were $5,000 grants. That has gone now, but the only ones that were funded were in the city of Sydney. So I think that's something we can work on about lobbying for, rural regional CCTV funding for community.
Yeah. And another reason why that's important, the Bureau of Crime Statistics released its latest data this week, and it showed that crime in regional areas is significantly higher than in Sydney, and when it comes to car theft and property theft, it's around 60% higher. So pretty solid argument there for it. Next question.
Robin Hargrave, question to Inspector McKenna. Is the WeWatch endorsed by the police? Would you care to comment further?
No, it's not officially endorsed by New South Wales Police yet, and I don't know whether that's because it's a new app. Am I personally opposed to it? Do I have any thoughts on that? I think it's a good idea. It's a great idea. The only issue I have with apps when they're not run by us is they're unregulated to a certain degree. And if you look at Facebook and other apps out there, where people have the opportunity to place comment on there, sometimes it's not the right comment. Sometimes it's not based on factual information. So some people will embellish information, put out the wrong information, or heighten a situation that doesn't need to be heightened. I don't know enough about the WeWatch app. It's only just come in. Haven't had a chance to use it, to look at it myself. I think it's a step in the right direction, most definitely. If you're asking me if it's corporately supported by New South Wales Police, I don't think it's been approached. New South Wales Police have been approached to corporately support it.
Thank you. And we actually have Marc Snake here, who's been driving the app take up in Goonellabah. Marc, did you want to come and say a few words about that? I think I've been hearing a little bit about it this week, including that it encourages vigilantism, which it sounded that way from Andre's story where he jumped in the car and went down the street. I don't think it's advocating that. My understanding is it's more like intended to be a modern version of the old Neighbourhood Watch, which was another great system that's died away. So Marc, did you want to say a few words?
G'day, my name's Marc from Goonellabah. Just before Christmas, we woke up one morning and all the fly screens had been ripped off our house, and we had a glass sliding door that was wide open in the morning that you can only open from inside. So we realised that someone had been in our house. Somehow a lot of people feel to have your space violated like that. You wake up every night, every time you hear a noise, wondering if they're coming back or it's going to happen again. And angry that you've got to spend thousands of dollars on your house to turn it into a fortress so that people won't come in and steal or intimidate you or do anything like that. So the solution, community programs, youth programs, legislation, is great and it's needed, but it all takes a really long time, and we have a problem right now. Do you sleep with a baseball bat? You go looking for people? But none of that's any good. Okay? If you end up hurt, you end up killed, you end up in jail, you end up retaliated against, your number one job of protecting your family is out the window because you're not there. So I got thinking about the residents around me, which is elderly people, single mothers, kids, people that live on their own. And I thought, what are they going to do if what happens to me happens to them? So I went and saw a few people, and the consistent message was that people are scared that someone's going to come into their house and no one's coming to help them. That's unacceptable in our community, that people don't feel safe in their own house. So I was looking at ways that give people like yourselves immediate action that you can take to help protect yourself when these crimes take place, which a lot of them happen in the middle of the night while you're asleep, while you're vulnerable, which means you need to be alerted the instant that you're under threat. In Goonellabah, we rolled out this app called WeWatch. I'm not the creator of the app, I was just looking for something that we could do. Because my theory was that if I don't have to fix Australia's crime problem, I don't have to fix Goonellabah's crime problem. If my street's safe and no one wants to come up and target our street, then my family's safe. And then if everyone else fixes their street, then we've made some progress in the short term. So with the app, if you catch someone on your security cameras, and in that way it's a bit of an extension of everyone else's security cameras. If you catch someone breaking into your car, breaking into your house, you notify the police. Obviously, as everyone said, they need as much information as they can get. But you can create an incident on the app that will notify every other app user within 1 kilometre that you've had a problem with your house. Okay, that sends you an alert in the middle of the night, and by no means is this a call to get out of bed and then go look for these people. It just means that you won't be caught off guard while you're asleep in your house. You can get up, turn some lights on, just make sure everything's locked, all that sort of thing. So you take the element of surprise away from these criminals, you put a barrier between yourself and people getting into your house in the first place. Since 1st of March, we've had 1,750 users uptake on the app with 30 incidents reported. Alright, so that's 30 incidents that potentially someone's got a notification and just double check their things and potentially stop them becoming a victim of crime. Your best asset is all the people that are sitting around you. If you get to know your neighbours and look after your own street, just keep an eye out for the more vulnerable people that you know exist around you. I'm a young guy, I've got elderly people across the road from me, so you need to stand up and look after those people as well. To me, that acts as a bit of a deterrent. If I'm a young person thinking of streets to go and target, if I know that every time I go up that street it seems like all the lights come on and everyone's watching, then I'm not going up that street. I do. So you cannot lay in bed, scared, waiting to become a victim, waiting for someone else to do something. When they got into my house, they went through my unlocked car, they got in through an unlocked 6-foot gate, and they got in through an unlocked bathroom window. So you do not make yourself an easy target. And if I locked those things, I probably wouldn't be involved. So make sure you lock up your things, look out for your neighbours. There's a WeWatch app, give it a go. If you've got any questions about it, you can come see me, I'll hang around. Thank you very much.
Once again, it's about community trying to help itself. Is it free?
Yes.
It's free, okay. You've got the mic, this gentleman here.
Morning. Chief Inspector, just firstly, thank you for the information on the bathing speech. You closed the loop for me, being a victim of a house robbery twice now in the last 3 weeks. I would like to suggest that the Ballina Crime app, we get more information than just the community speculating as to what is going on. You provided the update this morning as to what happened last night, Councillors Present with the stolen ute. I think it'll be a great benefit for the community to have that update and information that you can provide to help us close that loop. information you provided this morning, I now know that the person that I've captured on my CCTV and many others have in the Ballina community is currently on bail, because we know who's done this crime. My second point, I'll make it really brief. Given that we've been robbed twice, the second robbery, the young juvenile took a knife from our kitchen drawer, which was used to protect himself whilst inside our home. My concern is that if a member of the public isn't going to get hurt, this juvenile may get hurt. There's going to be some sort of incident if this continues to happen and escalate.
So, in terms of information, do you go to the Richmond Police Facebook page?
Yes, we've reviewed the page.
And someone's touched on it before in terms of staffing numbers. Our staffing numbers are down at the moment. We're actively trying to recruit, so there's an issue in terms of employing people, getting them up here, cost of living houses, which is endemic across all regional areas at the moment. We're understaffed. So there might be some delay with that information, but for us, I'll have a chat to Intellos, but they're heavily focused at the moment on this. You know, and every morning I come in and my Intellos have been working around the clock, putting out data, photographs of stolen vehicle locations, thematic mapping. We know, you know, every hour where a car's been stolen from, where a house has been broken into, where a car's been recovered. We're putting all those links and that together. We're deploying our staff, so they've been heavily focused on that. But the Richmond Police Facebook page should be the main source of information to come out. In terms of the other stuff, you know, again, common sense prevails. As I said before, I'd like the courts to take into consideration the impact on victim. Unfortunately, I don't see that occurring. So whatever we do as a community in response to this has to be reasonable.
I was robbed through the day and they broke into a locked garage door and cut the screen and then did the sliding door. I had a safe, which I thought I was safe with, which is a key, had one, but then they realised that there was a spare key that you could get in case of emergencies. So they've searched all my drawers, found the key and got into the safe and stolen heaps of money and jewellery. So it does happen through the day, just not at night. And I'll tell you what, you never get over it.
Hi, I'm Louise McLean. We've also suffered break-in. We were flood victims and it was clear that we were flood victims, and we've not only been robbed by some of the juveniles but also people with mental illness in our area have come and also abused my husband, damaged our vehicles and such as well. So I really feel for all the victims that are here today. I'm conscious of the work that the police provide for us. My question is, last night I saw the police chase going on with the cars going down Kerr Street. I also then heard when it had stopped, and then I saw some youths running and hiding in Saunders Park, behind the bushes in Saunders Park. I also saw the police cars looking for those people. When do I call the police and say, this is what I've seen? Knowing how busy you are, how do we get that information to you?
Straight away, just 000 straight away.
Okay.
Straight away, whenever you see something.
Just mention that, Rod.
000 straight away was the answer for those at the back who might not have heard.
Thanks very much to these guys that have given a very informative presentation this morning. My question is to the inspector. What deterrent do you offer for multiple offenders? Also, why not consider the welfare payments to the parents of these offenders? And also, if you're using the internet, what prevents them, the offenders, using the internet also? So it's a catch-22 situation. So you really need to do. And also, I was considering, I'm a bit of an old fogey. I think possibly to get some of these people off the street. What about national service? Did we ever think about that? Use the federal government and use the streets to vote. Thank you.
it was vastly different than it is today. Okay, you did something wrong, you get a kick up the backside. You know, Damien would have been the same. You know, so policing has progressed with society. You know, we can't, as I said, we don't make the laws. When you're talking about some of the suggestions, I mean, police sit around and they do make suggestions on how they could solve the issue, but no government would have the appetite to take on board any of our suggestions. Hearing what you're saying, I'm not going to support or deny it, whatever, but I understand what you're saying. We can't walk down that social path from a police perspective.
I just want to tell you an incident that happened to me in my neighbourhood. We're an elderly neighbourhood, we're all retired and a lot of them sleep in. So I'm the youngest one of the whole community. So the night on about the 15th of last month, I was awoken by a great big car bomb, plus also the alarm went off. I thought it might have been the neighbour, but it wasn't. So I had to go out and check to see what had happened. When I got out the door, there was a great big fire. And of course the car had exploded. The guy who had stolen the car had come from Lennox Head. He'd left the car there and just blew the car up and just disappeared. So I do not know who the person was. I informed the fireys. I also informed the policemen. And they came very, very quickly, and I thank the police and the firemen for doing so, and they were able to distinguish it and everything like that. But they're still trying to find out who the person is. So my thought, this is just a thought, whether none of the neighbourhood actually came out. My neighbour didn't even know. She just went to the toilet, excuse me for saying that, but she just went to the toilet, didn't even know, went back to bed, and didn't even know there was a fire going out at the side of my home and her home, and it was all going along up trees and along the grass and everything. So my thought is whether they can put a neighbourhood watch on our street particularly, so that we can watch just a little ticket or something, so that they can know that, yeah, that we are there. Yes.
I'd like to answer that for the lady, and that's where the WeWatch app is working for us, because as soon as something like that happens, you call 000, you hit the WeWatch app, and it will alert everybody in your street as to what's going on. Okay?
I've been robbed 4 times, not in Ballina, thank God, yet. 3 times in Sydney, once in Brisbane. 2 of those times I was in the house at the time. In West Ballina, although I've been lucky, a lot of people in my street have been robbed, and they have installed the motion sensor security lights. I am concerned about this suggestion that people take up these security lights and leave porch lights on, because I have had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm in the process of getting shutters, block-out blinds in my house. I've been abused by neighbours for telling them, for asking them to check the settings on their motion detector lights. I agree that they're a really important deterrent for people who are trying to get into your house or steal your car at night. But I implore you, if you are thinking of putting in one of these lights, can you please discuss it with your neighbours to see whether you're aiming straight into their bedroom windows. I have been abused by my neighbours for asking them to check their settings because the lights were blinking on, off, on, off, on, off all night long. I have changed bedrooms. I have resorted to sleeping on the floor. I have found that no matter what I do, I've got a light coming in from the front, from the side, from the back by all my neighbours putting on these lights. So while I am fully aware of how horrible it is to be robbed, because I've been through it 4 times, please don't put one of these lights on without checking with your neighbours and reading about the problem of geckos going in front of them, stray cats wandering in front of them, plants and trees waving in front of them. They're not the panacea of all things that you might think they are. So just think about it, please.
Anyone knows me knows I wouldn't get by without saying something. Thank you, people here today, Bill, Sharon, Andre, the locksmith. Look, I think what you're doing is really fundamental. It's on the right track. The problem is clearly identified with Bill. You people all have grassroots responses and ideas about how to do something about in-home invaders and criminals all hours of the night and day. The Bill's frustration is shared by all policemen and most people who've worked in the law. I actually spent the last 20 odd years of my life as a defence barrister, which made me an officer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, so I know a little bit about how it works. The magistrates, like everyone else, their hands are tied as well. The other people who do a pretty good job are the Aboriginal legal service people and the legal aid solicitors who work for these young kids and do their best with the right motivation, the right zeal, the right hopes that they can achieve something that may improve these children's lives. But they can go to court and they can use the maximum that is often used and is dolly in Caspia, I can't say it, which is a Latin terminology that means you can, a person of a certain age, like a child, which is 10 to 18, a juvenile offender, can be excused if it is established that that person does not know the right from wrong, about what they're doing is right from wrong. And this is I think Bill will agree, that's the fundamental problem. And the only way you change the maxims of the legislation is by putting heaps of pressure on the New South Wales legislative body, which is the state government. So the more you have meetings like this, Andre, and the more you're respectful like you are today, and Rod, like respectful like you are today, it's not a lynch mob, it's not, you're not behaving badly, you're not roaring out obscene insults to certain members of the community, then you will get traction. And hopefully, it's got to get home. We do have a retired magistrate in the area, his name's David Halpern. He's now the Dean of Law at Southern Cross University. He may have been prepared to come down, but I don't know. I think getting a magistrate here to maybe explain intricacies and the problems that he or she has on the bench. Because you get someone putting a case to you that this person has got a horrendous home life, has had a little education, which is often the home life's fault because education is available. My wife taught at Goonellabah for 25 years. It's there. You've got to go to school first. And you've got to be fed before you go, and you've got to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night and not watch rubbish till 2 in the morning or go out and break an edit. It's all family issues. But I don't know how we come on top of that. You can't go and tell people that they can't run their family properly. You imagine trying to do that in this society, you just can't do it. But, yeah, okay, he's getting up there. But honestly, when he gets to the court, that's where it's got to change, because there was a kid at Dubbo, a juvenile offender, had 70 offences. 70 offences, and he got out of the bail again. I mean, what do you do? I don't know. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Ian. Very helpful perspective. Much appreciated. Look, I see we've got a few people leaving, so we'll wrap it up. Councillor Zickle wants to have a quick word.
I've got a microphone now that's working.
Great.
Question for Mr. Tanner, thank you. I want to talk specifically about public CCTV, because we've talked a lot about how most of this crime is happening in our homes and how valuable it is to have CCTV in your home, but I believe we councillors are going to be presented with a report looking at options for public CCTV. So I wondered if you could comment, please, on what the objective of that is and how it's different to private presumably it's going to be expensive, right? And I don't think we have the resources for a fully integrated number plate recognition, facial recognition system in Ballina. So where would the police put these public CCTV cameras, and is it more about prevention? Because I would have thought people would just avoid those locations, or how do you use them from the police perspective?
Thanks, Kiri. And we'll have one more question, that gentleman up the back side that was standing. Did you have a question? And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, thanks, Kiri. That's a really good question. Look, the idea of putting in CCTV around you is about public safety, it's about community safety, make people feeling safe walking around the streets. In terms of the installation of that, we've identified a number of areas, hotspots, that we would like to see those cameras. We'll put them out on a map. What we said to council is we'd like those cameras relayed to Ballina Police Station. That way council doesn't wear the ongoing cost of having to monitor and supervise those cameras, come straight down to Ballina Police Station. When you look around this geographic area, who's got CCTV cameras? Byron Bay, Lismore, Nimbin, Casino, we're the only ones who don't. When you look around this area, who's had the most homicides? Ballina. And Ballina's had, I think, 6 homicides in the last 7 years. The majority of those homicides occurred in the main street near the licensed premises. Those homicides, what was crucial in solving them was obtaining CCTV footage. We had to door knock every business around Ballina and pick up whatever piece of CCTV footage we could. 1,000 different types of incompatible CCTV that we had to mould together, put together proofs of evidence. So that's where it becomes crucial. You know, by putting it up there, we may catch something, but at least with one standard system, it'll make people feel a lot safer. It'll be a definite crime reduction tool for us.
It's more about alcohol related.
Everything. It's a whole approach in terms of safety and community safety, making people feel safe to go and walk around town. It's a deterrent. It's all of that.
Okay, great.
All right, we're about to wrap up. We'll take one final question up the back.
Hi, David Fuller. Could the Chief Inspector expand further on the motive and the statistics of these crimes? And is it just all the young, or have we got professional elements in these crimes? Thank you.
So I deliberately didn't bring too many stats with me today, because what happens is BOSCAR is the official place for releasing those crime stats, and there's a slight difference between BOSCAR stats and our stuff. Our stuff is uploaded daily, it's fresh. BOSCAR, there might be some delay in some of their stats coming out. I think I said between the last reporting period for this group here, between September to March this year, there's been about 81 break and enter offences, and out of those, 15 of those involve stolen motor vehicles. That's what's given to me this morning. I don't know if that's correct. I reckon our stolen motor vehicle rate has been higher. Those stats purely relate to the Ballina Shire. Okay, so I'm part of the Richmond Police District. I've got an intel officer up at Richmond that does the stats for the whole area and breaks down everything for us. So in terms of that, February found was the highest month, as I mentioned before. And again, I think it's because it's warm, people left their doors, their windows open at night time, made themselves a bit of an easier target. And I didn't get the second half of your question.
What are the motives? Sorry.
In terms of, yes, so what we have noticed is, again, I think what you're seeing across Australia at the moment is young people going out. It's funny, you know, when I was sat in my office this morning, I thought about when I worked at Mount Druitt, I'd walk around and I'd talk to some young people. And what I found in the criminal element, and it's only my opinion, there's a bit of social status amongst them, is if you commit a good crime, you're actually elevated amongst your peers. So you'd walk down to Mount Druitt, you'd talk to someone and you'd say, if you want a car stolen, go and see Billy. If you want someone to break in your house, go and see Tom. So amongst their level of peers, they've actually got some status. For us, they're just grubs, to be quite honest. But in terms of motivation, again, it's just, when you look at some of the young ones that are living in an environment that is dysfunctional, it's dirty, they're not fed, they're not clean, they're bored, they've got no transport, not making excuses, this is just factual stuff that I see. Is it exciting to go out with your mates, do what they call creeping, break into a house, steal a car, go joyriding, get some alcohol, have some fun, film it, dump the car and burn? And then when you get picked up and you get taken, you might spend a night in Grafton where you've got, someone who's showing you a bit of attention, food, clean linen, bit of support. We spoke to a young fellow
down at Ballina the other week who's an habitual criminal. He goes into Ballina, he's there for 2 weeks. His skin had cleared up from taking the ice. He was eating, he was respectful, he wanted to, change his life around, which we thought was fantastic. It lasted 1 day when he came out, back on the ice, back around that. So there's a series of things. In terms of motivation, what we do see here, because you're so close to the Queensland border, it's not just all youth. Yesterday I was physically chasing some well-known career criminals out the back in England. Very, very bad criminals. They get released from jail, they come back here. People generally return to the area that they're familiar with. The other thing that we do see is criminals coming from Queensland into New South Wales to commit crime. They'll come down in a stolen car, do some breaking and enters, head back up the coast, hoping that they're not going to get caught. So it's a combination, it's not just about kids. The other thing that I'll say is, when you had the Corocai floods, when we had the Lismore floods, crime doesn't stop. When we're dealing with an aggravated breaking out now, crime doesn't stop. There's a whole series of things. It's always constant in every area. Some days are a little bit quieter than others. And then layered on top of that, you have a high amount of DV and health issues that you have to deal with as well. So there's a whole lot of things that are happening on a lot of levels. But I'm pretty proud of what the police are achieving across this area.
Thank you very much. Just one last question.
Is it fair to say that it's just a small group of kids in our area, or repeat offenders, or is it much more broader than that?
I can look at a map now and I can identify who's been responsible for which 2 kids being responsible for half a dozen break-and enters in a certain area. So it's a small group of young kids, and they're easily influenced by peers that might travel up the coast and come and see them, might spend a night, they'll go and they'll break it out. That's quite common. So it's not as if we are, Ballina, out of all the sectors, it's probably been the least impacted on. We are really passionate about trying to stop it in this sector at the moment. As I said, the thing that worried me was when I mentioned about that 16-year-old, never been in trouble before, and all of a sudden he's gone out and he's committed really serious offences. So the other thing that I think that the Mayor should look at too, as well I've got the microphone, is that you spoke about criminal liability. There's some push from within government to raise the age of criminal liability to 14. Now, I think that would be probably a backward step in terms of the community. So that's something that your mayors might want to have a look at, because, at the moment, a lot of our young offenders are 12 and 13 years of age. And if you're telling me they don't know right from wrong, well, I'm standing here in a clown outfit.
We'll wrap up the questions there. Would you please thank our Detective Inspector, Chief Inspector for I just wanted to quickly introduce you to Damien Loone. Damien, did you want to come up and say a quick word? Damien has been already working with Andre, and we'll be working more closely with him in terms of a community response here at Ballina. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Rod.
Hi everybody, wow, great to see everyone here today. You've got each other's back, that's a great thing. I spent 35 years as a police officer, the last 25 as a detective, so I know where you're coming from. I've been a victim of crime myself, and a colleague Andre as well, and Bill, fantastic effort today, mate. You nailed every question. I thought you did a great job. It's about watching our neighbours back, supporting our local coppers, no finger pointing who's to blame. I'm here to help out with the app and to take over some responsibility from this area, because this is my patch. I live here now. This is my patch. I take pride in it. And the Mayor, thank you for coming today. You've also answered very good questions. But most importantly, it's every one of you who are here today who are concerned. And we have a big voice. And let's get behind our local police. Support them. Let's look at raising their staffing levels here. Let's lobby the Min's government and our local member and our federal member, right? Where are they? Where are they? Okay, that's my question. Now, they're not here, there's no apology. this meeting's been well announced the last week or so. So let's get behind our police, our council, and also let's lobby the government here to raise the staffing levels for Ballina because it's simply not on. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Damien. Couldn't say it better myself. Madam Mayor, final word from you, and I will thank you all at this point. Thank you so much for coming. And if you want to stay in touch, as I said, leave your details out there. Madam Mayor.
Well, can I just say to everybody, I'm really sorry that you've had to endure such an invasion in your homes and property and everything else. I am really sorry to hear some of those stories. Let's hope we can make a big difference. I think we've had some great information here this morning from all the speakers, and particularly let's help the police do their jobs. I've had some more information from Telstra. That plan should be ready for our CBD areas by the end of April. And they will work closely with Council to deliver that report to Council. And we do need to work very closely on doing that, because I do think cameras are great. When we hear from Chief Inspector Bill over here about how Ballina has had the most homicides and everything else, that's a concern. That's something we should be concerned about. If cameras can help, and they will, I believe that's what we have to keep lobbying government for. We have to keep knocking on the door and get those cameras funded, and also community cameras. I'll search out that. Why was that policy dropped, and also why wasn't it extended to rural and regional areas where we have the highest statistics? So thanks again everyone for coming up. Thank you to all the speakers today. You've done a great job. Councillor Bruem actually funded the Richmond room hire out of his own pocket. Thank you very much, Councillor. And I think it's really important, and if you do want to keep in touch, leaving your details, we can do that. We know who was here. Okay, thanks so much everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Happy St. Patrick's Day.